I'm a vibe coder. I build things with AI, but I don't actually know the code. That might be a problem. So I'm going to learn the code. I work in competitive intelligence. I collect data on companies. I analyze markets for opportunities for growth. But I used AI tools to build a site. And it's pretty cool. But it could be risky. I don't know what I'm building. Am I doing it right? I'm connected to APIs. Is it secure? Where do I start? I need to learn. I have a finance degree. I have an MBA. I learn new things about competitors every day. I got this. Here's where I'll start. 45 minutes of free code camp every weekday. I'll complete each course, get certified, and then I'll know everything.
Maybe.
But HTML is a good start, right?
Let's go.
But first, we need coffee. There is nothing like some Breville espresso coffee.
I'm pumped.
Let's fire up the PC. Something you really can't forget to do though is apps. Alright, we're ready to get into it. Let's look at Free Code Camp. So after getting everything set up, I jumped into the responsive web design course on Free Code Camp. And this is where the real learning actually starts. In this session, I worked through the first 64 steps, which are basically the fundamentals of HTML, things like headings, paragraphs, links, images, the basic structure that every website on the internet is built on. And honestly, it looks pretty simple. But this is also stuff I've never actually learned before. And up until now, whenever I've built something with AI tools, I've mostly just trusted that the code worked. I could read some of it, but I didn't really understand how everything fit together. So Free Code Camp forces you to slow down and actually write the pieces yourself. You add an element, you see what changes, you nest something wrong, the page breaks, you fix it, and suddenly it works. So even though these early steps are basic, they're already starting to show me how a web page is really structured under the hood. And by the end of this week's session, I finished the first 64 steps of the responsive web design course, and for the first time, the code I'm looking at is starting to make sense. I'm honestly really grateful that resources like Free Code Camp exist. If you wanted to learn something like this 10 or 15 years ago, it would have been a lot harder to find structured lessons that you could just sit down and work through step by step. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect to get through 64 steps this week. I work full time, so most of the learning for this project has to happen in the evenings or whenever I can squeeze it in. But getting through these first steps makes the whole thing feel a lot more doable. So going forward, my goal is to keep working through the course consistently. Ideally, I want to spend about 5 days a week learning, but realistically, I'm setting a minimum of 3 days each week so I can keep making steady progress. And step by step, I'll keep rebuilding the stack. But I can't just walk through these steps. I need to apply it. There's something else I want to learn too.
Hindi.
I'm going to add 30 minutes of Hindi practice every day. I'm going to take what I learn and use it to build a site for practicing Hindi. So let's learn some Hindi. Sunye, 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 sunye. Angrezi, 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 angrezi. Sunye? Yeah, so Pimsleur teaches a lot of repetition and going back to things that you've already learned to really reinforce it. So at this point, I had completed 4 days of learning code and then also practicing Hindi. So just 45 minutes of code and 30 minutes of Hindi gave me a lot of material to work with, and then also really jump-started my learning. So this is really a way to keep myself accountable and make sure that I'm following through with that consistency that I need to actually learn anything. I'm gonna learn
On the job.
Let's build it. So at this point, what I want to do is be able to start to actually build something. So I went ahead and bought a domain, rebuildthestack.com, and I started with HTML, and I had to, Google things, still use chatbots like ChatGPT or Anthropic to help me along the way, but really start to apply the things that I've learned in Free Code Camp and really start simple. Here it is. So I got a site stood up and it was pretty exciting. I was happy that there's something that's actually working. You go to rebuildthestack.com and you can see this about me page. it has, an image that I was able to properly have showing there. It has alt attributes to it, and then just a short description of what the site is going to become. But when I kind of took a step back and looked at the site, it's pretty underwhelming. There's not much to show for. So I thought, I need to at least add some level of something cool to it. And that's where I figured that, hey, I'm recording myself learning Hindi. And so I have all of these phrases that I'm saying. The last thing I learned for HTML was for buttons. So I decided to work on adding some buttons to the site. Final step, add buttons. So I felt kind of clueless at the beginning. What I ended up having to do was download all the phrases that I've spoke in Hindi, and then I needed to name each one, and there are quite a few duplicates, but then I needed to go into Visual Studio and add each of the buttons. Now when you click on a button, you can hear the Hindi version of whatever is typed there. Thodi thodi Amriki. क्या आप अमरीकी हैं? क्या आप अंग्रेजी समझती हैं? Namaste. So that's where I got to with 1 week of learning some code for the first time and starting back up with Hindi. I'm really excited to continue developing out the site, and I'm going to do this every week and come out with new updates, see where I can get. So follow along for the journey, and see you next week. Oh yeah, and I'm also learning a third thing, which is video editing, and I have not done that before, so stick with me.